Hi folks, Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. Now, in this essay, I'd like to talk about, and pivoting off at a couple of things. There's my essay yesterday about entrapment and how that's becoming a bigger and bigger issue with the globalist controlled and corrupted and undermined justice system that we're seeing all over the West now. You know, we have to accept that the justice system in the West is now an enforcement tool for the globalist project. It's not there for justice or equality under the law or due legal process. Those things are very yesterday. The entire thing now is almost completely being turned over to the globalist project and the enforcement of the globalist project and the crushing of all those who may either oppose it or are likely or potentially could oppose it. So it's become completely an ideological tool. I just want to sort of go off that, but also, you know, the recent Andrew Tate thing. Andrew Tate was a guy who's, at the best as I understand it, has committed no crime, or not any crime that any law enforcement authority has been able to articulate or define. It's just that he was popular with young white men in the West and was talking about, you know, perfectly normal and acceptable values of how young men can lead their lives. But this goes against the globalist project. The globalists want straight white males turned into either terrified, too terrified and fearful to say or do anything, or turn them into sort of pansy girly men who run around with rainbow armbands all day and that sort of thing. And so they have to neutralize Tate. And if you look at anyone who's really got a big enough profile with young white men, then the globalists will move swiftly and viciously to crush them. And I think that's what's really happening with Tate, or anyone in that space. But I just want to talk about sports stars generally. Andrew Tate was a former sports star. And whether the sport is football or hockey or soccer in Britain or whatever it is, rugby, football in Australia and that sort of thing. There's the globalists are using, I would assert, premeditated, pre-planned schemes of entrapment, and they're using all the apparatus and power of the state and all the taxpayer money that goes with it to go and entrap and set up sports stars just so they can humiliate them in the public eye and perp walk them in front of the cameras, that type of stuff. It's a great image watching and the media being tipped off, watching the sports star in handcuffs be led away and that sort of thing. It's young people look at that, go, oh, I didn't know my hero was a criminal, and very few will actually delve into the details to go, well, hold on a minute, this looks like a setup. So let me talk a bit about the setup, certainly that I believe are going around. Now, just to sort of illustrate how coordinated and centrally planned this is, at around the same time across the world, there was a sports star in Australia, a sports star in Canada, a couple of sports stars in the United States, sports star in the United Kingdom, and these are reasonably high-profile sports stars, one in New Zealand, and around the same time, all these men, these straight white men, were accused of gross acts of misogyny, rape, violence against women, and the violence against women angle was the one that they were chasing. Now, this happened all at the same time, and with cases that were very similar, eerily similar. Then it's impossible that these could just be isolated rando incidents. And when I looked into one of them, and then noticed the same pattern in the others, it was quite clearly, in my view at least, quite clearly a case of premeditated, organised, pre-planned schemes of entrapment with the full complicity of the law enforcement authorities, the police, not so much the police, but certainly the police, but Department of Prosecutions, the Justice Department, going after these sports stars and directly encouraging and funding women to go and make complaints. And these women were also activists. So here's one where an activist, a feminist activist, unusually decides that she wants to get a date with a very very well-known, very famous sports star, and so she's nothing to look at, this girl. So she's a feminist, nothing to look at, who decides she wants to get a so she alleges, a hot, steamy date with a sports star. This is a super fit guy. He's a good-looking dude. He's got chicks hanging off him left, right, and centre. Hot chicks, by the way. And he's dating supermodels. But somehow this frumpy, nothing to look at young feminist girl studying, gender studies or sociology at university, she wants to get a date with him. Now that's already quite a stretch. So he's out with his entourage. He's got the usual, flunkies and hangers on that these sports stars seem to attract. So she then accosts him, somehow finds out the restaurant where he's at. Like, I would say she's following him and stalking him at this point. But anyway, she finds out the restaurant where he's at, and then harasses him at the restaurant while he's minding his own business, trying to start a conversation with him, saying that she wants to, join his group and hang out with him, and would he consider taking her out? That's unusually forward for any woman to do that, especially as the guy's there with other people, again, really hot chicks around him and that sort of stuff. So I don't buy this. I see setup already at this point. He tells her to get lost, reasonably politely initially, and then him and his entourage head off to a well-known nightclub. She follows him. Now, I don't know how it's got a reasonably high door sort of charge, so how she manages to pay that and get in, I don't buy that, a student, and that. So anyway, she goes to the nightclub and continues to harass him and pesters him and keeps on going up to him. By now, he's telling her, "Why don't you fuck off?" So again, now just to follows, she is following him and harassing him. He tells her to go away. She refuses and keeps on getting in his face. He's reasonably well behaved and good humoured about it, at this stage, but she keeps at him. Goes away for a minute or two, then comes back, accuses him of, he's a misogynist and he's an asshole, and calling him names. Now, a lot of people won't put up with that, but he's quite sort of good humoured about it. Him and his group leave that nightclub and they're going to go to another nightclub. So they stop at some takeout food shop or something like that along the way, and she follows him. She's following him again in her car. So as soon as he leaves, she jumps in her car and follows him. So they stop at this takeout food shop. Him and his entourage. She stops as well. Harasses him again. Now, by now, he's telling her, "Look, fuck off, bitch." This sort of thing. The language is getting a little serious. She harasses him and gets in his face. So he buys some takeout food, and he's eating it, and she says, "Why won't you answer me?" And tries to slap the food out of his hand. He moves it. She then slaps his face. She claims that she didn't do that. She claims that she was only trying to grab the food he was eating to make him listen to her. Now, already you think, well, hold on a minute. Stalking, following, harassing, refusing to go when you're told to go. He doesn't want you. He tells you to get lost. And now you're trying to grab food out of his hand or slap his face when he doesn't answer your questions. I mean, who the fuck do you think you are? Jesus. So anyway, when she slaps his face, he hits her. And so she then stops following him and harassing him. Straight away, she's down at legal aid, and they're exhorting her to lay civil charges against him. With the full support of the government. Like, all of her legal bills are paid. She's got, victim support groups. She's got everything. She's handheld and guided all the way through. And you know, normally legal age, you get some pretty, you know, for this sort of stuff, you get the, you know, really just kid lawyers, you know, fresh out of college who've never tried a case in their lives. She gets top drawer fucking lawyers on this. So they and then they managed to bring him in front, get him in front of. How's this for coincidence? They managed to bring the case in front of a known activist judge, who's will hear the case, who, needless to say, decides. Now, yeah, you need to look at this case here just to sort of see how ideological it is. The judge, the guy's not poor. He's a you know, wealthy sports star. So he's got a decent lawyer, but the judge accepts that the woman harassed him, accepts the woman stalked him and followed him, accepts that the woman wouldn't leave when he told her to go, accepts that she abused him and used abuse for that, accepts all of that, and accepts that you know, somewhat accepted that the woman hit him, but says, well, she may have not really meant to, or maybe she was just trying to grab the food out of his hand. Could have been that. So let's say her hitting him was a maybe. So when he hits her, which remember, she's just slapped his face. So and she's been harassing him for hours and abusing him. So there's quite a lot of build up to this. Then he says, because he's a man and because he's stronger than her, he's not allowed to hit her for that reason. Therefore, he has committed criminal assault, and you know, he's going to pay a fine and do time in prison for it. Now, this is insane. So the media is obviously right on cue, very well coordinated to watch the guy being perp walked, handcuffs on, and all this sort of stuff. So that was a you know, I don't think, you know, only an activist, a feminist, pro-activist feminist judge would have actually you know, convicted this guy, given all the other stuff. You know, why didn't you you know, when he wasn't interested in talking to you, why did you persist? You know, Miss Billie Jean Smith. Oh, you know, I don't know. Well, that's not a good enough answer. I just wanted to get a date with him. What's wrong with that? Well, he's already told you no. So you followed him, you stalked him. You are aware that's against the law, Miss Smith. That he told you to get lost again. Now you're calling him names, you're abusing him, using abusive language, and you follow him again. Yeah, now you follow him again, yeah, and so on. Now, to me, yeah, his case against her for stalking him and harassing him should have been strong, if not stronger than things. But no, they wanted a sports star, the head of a sports star on a pike. So that's the case that was. I don't see the guy guilty at all, but they wanted a straight white male. They wanted a straight white male head on a pike for ideological reasons, and they were prepared to put vast resources. Now, I would suggest that woman, that young woman who harassed her, I would suggest that's a setup. I don't think any normal person would follow someone who's telling them to get lost for that long, harass them for that long, and then straight away they've got the case in court. There's just no, you know, like if 6 months later she tries, but it was like bang, all the wheels started rolling straight away. So I would say that's an entrapment, a pre-planned thing. Now, it didn't probably turn out like they wanted, because the sports star, had been more than tolerant, and she had to actually slap his face before they got the reaction they wanted. But even so, they could again bring the case in front of, you know, an activist prosecutor, an activist judge, and they could get it nailed and get the guy put in prison. Now, at the same time, this is the bit that gets me, because that was a very weak case in my view, very weak. So at the same time, they managed to nail a soccer star, a hockey star in Canada, a couple of football players, or was it football? I think a couple of football players in the United States, and a football player in New Zealand, all at about the same time, and all the same sort of cases. Now, I don't believe it's possible to have that many cases featuring white sports stars for the same sort of things. You know, they're misogynist. They're violent to women, violent to the fucking Nazi fucking oppressors. So young boys, these aren't your role models. Your role models are the ones wearing the rainbow handbands over there. Don't you follow the? And so it was just too orchestrated, too planned. And I think this is really how justice is being done. They'll the globalists will target an area. Gee, we got a problem here with young boys following sports stars. It's just making it a bit harder to get the globalist message across and turn all the Western men into pansy boys. I think we've got to put a few sports stars in prison. That'll be a good message to send out. How are we going to do that? Well, we'll do a setup. I mean, it won't be hard. And let's just and I think that's the world that we're living in at the moment. You've been a Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for listening.